a lot of these shows. But anyway, well, that'll about wrap it up for our deep dive this week. It honestly transitions really, really smoothly into our, tops in for the week. And man, as I said earlier, the season 1 finale of Geek Life is here. After 26 amazing episodes, we'll be taking a short break. But that got us all thinking, who really nailed the art of a season finale? We talked a little bit about them in the top or in the deep dive, but for our top Zen, we wanted to do just that. This is the top 10 season finales of all time. And this is not necessarily series finales. Some of these may be series finales. Some of them are season finales. So just wanted to get that out of the way. Starting off with number 10, Kev, tell the people who we have kicking off our countdown.
Yeah, Jake, when I saw you filling out this list, I saw what was on here, and I immediately highlighted this for myself because, Arrow, Leanne, you. Coincidentally, users on IMDb happen to rank this as the best overall episode in the history of the CW Network's Arrow. It was. Season 4 is often cited as a low point for the series. Season 7, 6, but that's debatable. We'll get onto that another way. But season 5 picked things back up. Leanne Yu was the season's final episode, and it brought the show full circle by taking things back to the island where it all began. Oliver Queen teamed up with old rivals like Slade Wilson to do battle with one of his greatest foes, Adrian Chase. Fantastic antagonist, by the way, super underrated. Yes. It was an intense war that led to one of the best cliffhangers of the decade. God, I will watch that again. I might watch it after the show. Just that episode. Oliver saved his son from Chase, but it may have cost him dearly as the island holding all of his friends was blown the fuck up. Also, by a subsequent death kill switch that Chase sort of implanted himself once he killed himself right in front of Oliver. Guys, Jake, I know you've seen it. Bron, have you seen the Arrow season 5 season finale?
I have not.
Oh my God.
No.
This is what sucked me back in, honestly. I was starting to really fall off the Arrow train, and then season 5 was like, oh shit. All right. Then we hired the writers back.
Season 5 was so that whole season was incredible because, like you said, season 3, season 2 was amazing. Season 2, in my opinion, was the best season.
Yeah. I think Dot even nailed it 1, 2, and 5.
Right.
Great.
That's it. That's all you need to watch. That's all you need to watch of Arrow. Just watch one.
Okay.
That's all you need. But that whole the Adrian Chase, they finally brought an antagonist that rivaled Arrow, and it made sense because the problem with the show was it started getting weird with magic and super power. He was fighting other shit that just didn't make sense, right? This
kill
as
Arrow.
much flack as they got, right. As much flack as they got, where it was oh, he's analogous of Batman. Well, Arrow's always been analogous of Batman, and they kind of hinted at Christopher Nolan's style of writing when they did the show. So all of the antagonists and his story, his plot lines made sense for the character. But once they started changing the identity up, that's when it started going down. But season 5 really got back to that. And then with all the blows that you thought was going to happen at the end of this season, Jesus, I still get goosebumps thinking about it. It was great.
No, it was one of probably the best season finales of a show. Like I said, that season in general was really good. So you knew it was ramping up to something awesome. And, it really got me back into it. But that is, definitely, it doesn't take a detective to figure out that was a great season finale, but it does take a detective to maybe figure out the next one. Bronwyn, who do you got at number 9 on the countdown this week?
Number 9 on the countdown, we have Sherlock with the Reichenbach Fall series finale of season 2, how they ended season 2. BBC's America's Sherlock helped launch both Benedict Cumberbatch and Martin Freeman into superstardom. Each season is only 3 episodes, but they play out like mystery films. None executed this better than the season 2's incredible Reichenbach Fall. It pitted Sherlock Holmes against his greatest adversary, Jim Moriarty. The two geniuses competed in the ultimate battle of wits, and it was riveting to watch unfold. The famous rooftop scene is one of the best of the decade. Moriarty has Sherlock beat and even shoots himself in the head to ensure that Sherlock would have to die to save his friends. And Sherlock does so, leaping off a building while saying an emotional goodbye to Watson, ending the series on one of the greatest cliffhangers ever. Did you guys get a chance to watch this show?
No, I know it launched Benedict Cumberbatch's career, but I honestly, I've never gotten a chance to see it. Even though I would say I'm a fan of Sherlock Holmes. I always liked, the Robert Downey Jr. movies. For as much shit as they got, it was still, I'll watch Robert Downey Jr. in anything. So like, you could literally put him in a Tiger King movie, which honestly, that'd be great. Anyway, and so like, I love him in anything. What about you, Kev?
Yeah, I've heard nothing but great things about the show, and this is this is one of the like season finales that is talked about when you Google what are some of the best season finales. So I'm familiar with it, but I've never actually seen it myself. But I'm here for anything Benedict Cumberbatch related. I'll definitely go check it out.
This show is great. You should watch it. You're on the edge of your seat the whole time. And I love the character. I've read a lot of the Sherlock Holmes stories. It's just, they're all so interesting and just mind-boggling and a little creepy too, which I like. So this show does a really good job of taking that universe into the modern day, I feel like, in a way that really makes it its own thing, because they use technology, they use a lot of the modern kind of devices to their advantage. So I think it's a great show.
Yeah, no. And speaking of, it's definitely one that I want to get back into. But speaking of shows that, whenever you Google kind of like the best endings of all time, you'll get not only this episode, but the episode that it's parodied off of. Number 8 this week is The Simpsons Who Shot Mr. Burns. The Simpsons parody of the classic Dallas episode Who Shot JR was a murder mystery in this series, and it's really The Simpsons' only 2-parter ever, which is really interesting. As fans awaited the conclusion during the summer of 1995, so yeah, throwing it way back, right? I don't know, Bronwyn, were you born? And so, but the shooting moved past.
That's when I was born.
Yeah, 95. Nice. Nailed it. So I was 5 years old. Anyway, the shooting moved past parody into genuine mystery as the identity of the culprit became a hot topic in its own right. During the time, this was all over different like newspapers. People were talking everywhere about who shot Mr. Burns. And while there were laughs, of course, Who Shot Mr. Burns is actually pretty dark, all things considering. Without a doubt, it makes The Simpsons highest peaks of, it's one of the Simpsons highest peaks of cultural relevance, and people still reference the episode to this day. And I believe it even came out later that it was Maggie who had shot Mr. Burns. And so very interesting, just how that came full circle. But even though it's an older show, have you guys ever gotten a chance to go back and rewatch The Simpsons? Because it's one of those that where, I never watched it episodically that much. But, now that it's all on Disney Plus, I've been rewatching it. And the first couple seasons season 1's a little iffy, but season 2 really starts to kick things off. And it's a really good show. It's the fucking Simpsons. So who am I telling? Of course, it's a good show.
One of my mass comm professors was a huge Simpsons fan. And I think one of our entire, I guess, part of the curriculum was like a whole week of The Simpsons. So yeah, I'm very familiar with this episode and its impact on like the pop culture pulse at the time, right? Like TV really Guide, if you will, was like covering that, like it was on the cover of TV Guide and all this stuff. And God, do you remember TV? Anyways,
it's crazy. So, during its time, if you took it right now, every Gen Zer would be making a TikTok about it or something. I don't know what.
No, for sure.
It was a phenomenon. It was one of those things that everybody was talking about. Who shot Mr. Burns? It was just like Who shot JR, which is hilarious because it was a parody. Even before
I watched this for an exam, oddly enough, that's how much money I spent on that. Anyway, I even remember like when I was a child, remember just seeing this on on the network on all the commercials and stuff, like the iconic image of him laying over the compass, like bloodied and stuff. You're like, oh my God, what the fuck is going on? So.
And it was Mr. Burns. So, the fact that the essential richest man in Springfield and owner of the power plant was gone, it was going to be a huge debacle. Right. But moving right along into number 7 on our countdown is another show that's, I believe a Fox original, but it's definitely one that I've gotten sunk into a few episodes. But Kevin, can you tell us about number 7 on the countdown this week?
Yes, I can. When Friends first debuted, J.J. Abrams was still the producer with the Midas touch behind his hits like Lost and Alias and Felicity, if you were into that kind of thing. So audiences are troubled when Friends wasn't an instant winner like his previous works. The uneven sci-fi series got it together by the end of season 2, however, delivering a blockbuster 2-part finale that finally capitalized on all the series and the talent behind it had to offer. In the world of Fringe, a second universe exists parallel with ours, and its inhabitants are secretly plotting war. When Peter, played by Joshua Jackson, recently revealed to be a native of that side, is taken the superpowered Olivia, played by Anna Torf, resolves to do this unthinkable venture to the other side and bring him back. Armed with brain-addled geniuses Walter Bishop, enigmatic William Bell, and a couple of equally empowered individuals, Olivia crosses universes and discovers just how different things are over there. On Earth 2, Fringe even plagues the island of Manhattan regularly, and Fringe Division agents are publicly celebrated heroes in sharp contrast to the covert operations that they are over here. Walter is the Secretary of Defense, the man behind all the small-scale attacks on Earth 1, and somehow Peter figures into his ultimate plot. In the effort to get audiences to return, Abrams gave us a great special effects that depict the differences in Earth 2. Some small and some huge, and action sequences like knockdown, drag-out fight between Olivia and her ruthless Earth 2 double, and the final twist is pure J.J. Abrams. Simple yet genius, leaving the viewer thirsty for the next season. Jake, I heard you perk up once you saw this was on the list.
Yeah. No,
how does this resonate with you?
You know, honestly, it's a spoiler for me because I never got to finish Fringe, but it's definitely one that makes me want to go back and finish Fringe. I did not realize we got into Earth 1 and Earth 2s and different universes and shit. This is one of those where, like, actually hearing the ending makes me want to go back and watch the show that we were talking about earlier. And so, I had no idea that we got into separate universes, but JJ, he's JJ. Like, you know, we're on first name basis, by the way. We're best friends. JJ, he's going to do what JJ want to do, right? And what JJ want to do is throw some crazy sci-fi shit our way. And so, he does always leave you kind of thirsting for the next episode. That was one of the biggest things. Lost was so good at just grabbing you by the balls and saying, like, hey, you're coming back next week. Me and Jessica were talking about it, and I could not imagine watching Lost in real time, you know, like
it was so stressful.
Yeah, it had to be. Because, Jesus, like if you didn't have the ability to binge that show, oh Lord,
it was rough.
Peace be with you.
Yeah.
But speaking of sci-fi brilliance, number 5 on the countdown, or actually, sorry, number 6 on the countdown this week is probably one of the best known sci-fi series of the last decade. Bronwyn, tell the people what we got at number 6.
We have Battlestar Galactica. Oh my gosh, this show, guys. I love this show. I think I have every season on DVD. Like, that's how into this show I was when it was coming out. But
What's
let's just get into this
instead of fuck.
Frack.
Frack. That's what it is. Okay.
Yeah, that's right.
Give the people fracking 6.
Frackin' 6. By the end of its second season, Sci-Fi's low-key genius, politically charged thriller had perfected not only the art of the finale proper, but the mid-season cliffhanger as well. When season 2, considered the series' strongest season, resumed, it built towards a cutthroat presidential race between the increasingly ruthless Laura Roslin and the traitorous, spineless genius Guy Spaltar. The race is colored by this discovery of a habitable planet on which the fleeing fleet, the last vestiges of humanity after the Cylons, vengeful robotic servants turned terrorists, nuked all of the human planets in the pilot episode, could finally settle down and make a home. Baltar winning the election turns out to be the worst thing possible for the fleet, as his self-serving actions inadvertently lead the pursuing Cylons right to the doorstep precisely 1 year after they've settled. His quick surrender and the fact that the fleet is grown comfortable and thus unprepared to run or do battle leaves the tens of thousands of humans at the mercy of Cylon invaders. Admiral Adama is forced to take the defenseless battleship and run for the time being, but he awesomely promises, "We'll be back. Don't let the goofy name fool you." This was one of the best dramas of the past decade. Get familiar on Netflix.
I definitely will. I'll have to because I've
Yeah.
always heard nothing but good things about Battlestar Galactica. And honestly, I look like one of the fucking guys who watch. Or my bad, one of the fracking guys who would probably watch Battlestar Galactica. So I'm gonna. I may definitely have to get into it.
Yeah.
Now that I know it's
if
on
you know,
Netflix.
yeah, and if you know The Office, like you're familiar, like Jim is always making fun of Dwight for like being into Battlestar
Bears
Galactica. And
beats
it's like
Battlestar Galactica.
Yeah. It's this like running joke. And I mean, I'm one of those nerds who just like was so into Battlestar, so I get it.
No,
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah, it's something I need to get into too. I don't think, like a lot of shows that came out in the 2000s, I just didn't get into because one, I just didn't have the attention span as a kid to sit in front of a television and watch it, and then like you said, Jake, having to wait a week. No, man, I'm gonna play video games. But
no, exactly.
Yeah, this is something that resonates hard with the geek and nerd culture, and it's something that I feel like I've done a disservice to. I have not seen it, so I need to check it out.
Same.
Yeah.
And I used to, I just didn't. I think it was the episodicness and the waiting that made me, as a younger dude, just not fuck with shows. Like I used to just not watch as much, like not big drama shows, really, right? Like I would still watch like comedies and stuff like that, but But yeah, well, speaking of your huge drama shows, number 5 was one of probably the biggest of all time until the last season.
Just so you're aware, this is just to preface this. This is the best season finales, not series finales.
Not series finales, seasons finales.
So we don't get in trouble for this.
And so number 5 on the list is Game of Thrones, The Winds of Winter. Considering the backlash of the disappointing final season, it's difficult to even mention Game of Thrones positively these days. But let's not forget that when the show was great, it was nearly untouchable. The season 6 finale, The Winds of Winter, was peak Game of Thrones. It opened with a moment fans have long awaited for as Arya killed Walder Frey and avenged the Red Wedding, which was another one that almost made this list. So, but it was actually episode 9. Anyway, that's a big thing about Game of Thrones. Their episode 9 was usually the finale, and 10 was usually setting you up for the next season. But anyway, then you had the phenomenally laid out scene where Cersei destroyed the Sept with wildfire, which, iconic, made tons of memes. Everybody talked about it. And it also confirmed the famous R plus L equals J theory of Jon Snow's lineage. The unbelievable hour end with Daenerys finally making her long-awaited trip to that episode ended with Daenerys finally making her long-awaited trip to Westeros. So this was, the season 6 finale. It was a little bit before the series completely shit the bed, and I think it's probably one of the highest rated episodes of Game of Thrones history, which is saying a lot considering, all of the different kind of season finales that it's had throughout the years and all the different episodes. But this was definitely one of the most packed ones, and I think people just really loved Arya getting revenge for the Red Wedding. What do you guys think?
And it all went downhill from there. But it's right. It's weird, right? Like this was peak Game of Thrones. Like, they're coming over. They're coming over to Westeros, and like you said, Arya gets revenge. Everything's coming together. You're like, oh shit! I can't wait for season 7. And then 7 and 8 happen, and Anyway, but this episode itself, like you said, just chef's kiss, perfect. Everything wrapped together in a nice little bow. Everything, like every type, like Bron was saying, where you're getting resolutions, not just from a season, but an entire series, basically leading up to this point. And then you have a cliffhanger at the end because shit's about to go down.
And this is one of those moments that shows the strength of the writing and of the production of this. So it gets you excited. And it also just makes their downfall that much more disappointing because they are capable of giving us what we want. They are, but they don't.
Yeah. But they don't. They gave the people what they wanted for a long time until it's almost like we weren't bored of it. They got bored of it or something.
Yeah, exactly.
But speaking of directors getting a little off the rails, Kevin, who do you got for us at number 4?
Yes, Jake, it's Lost Through the Looking Glass. And again, season finale, not series finale.
Yes.
Lost didn't create the flashback narrative technique, of course, but it mastered it in an impressive manner that spawned much acclaim and imitation. It also threatened to suffocate the show. 3 seasons in, it was painfully clear that the creators were straining to continue to create character-centric flashbacks that resonated and enriched the castaways' backstories. Flat tales like the story nobody really wanted to know about, Jack Stacker 2, Locke being a gullible fool for the 47th time, or Saeed facing a personification of a shady past yet again left the once rapturous audience bored, while others were saddled with increasingly ridiculous additions to their bios. Kate was once married, Desmond was a monk. So how did they rejuvenate the series? By abandoning their bread and butter format for a bolder one and setting an end date for the series that would effectively kill all wheel spinning in favor of renewed momentum and the promise that all the island shenanigans would build to an actual straightforward conclusion. The declaration that Lost was back in the game would be summed up with one game-changing scene, a Jack flashback that ended with a mysterious meetup with a woman who would turn out to be Kate. Oh,
dun, dun, dun.
Intrigue doesn't stop there, as the flash forward ends with a future despondent alcoholic Jack screaming that they have to go back. For 3 seasons, we figured the series' endgame would center on the castaways finally getting off the island. The reveal that there was much, much more at stake was simply ingenious. The masterful twist wasn't the only aspect that makes through the Looking Glass and classic. The on-island events are just as, if not more poignant, as the castaways finally take down the antagonistic island cabal. The others and set the stage for a rescue team that we discover may have more sinister plans in mind. All of the action is underscored by Charlie's underwater sacrifice to point the rescuers in the right direction, as the series sends off one of its most beloved characters in a fittingly emotional fashion. Lost will still have its problems during the final 3 years, but this is the episode that convinced many to stay with it while convincing the rest of us that we were watching something truly historic unfold. You know what this reminds me of? It really reminds me of Arrow, Lian Yu, right? Where it's like you have these kind of dull moments where you're getting bored and confused as to what direction the show's going.
Yeah.
And then they hit you with this fucking bombshell. You're like, oh shit, it's back. You know? Like, and again, it's another show that used flashbacks, right? Like that was the whole problem with Arrow, where it was 5 years on an island, then you get to 5 years in the present, you ran out of flashbacks. So what do? It's kind of, you kind of see the same similarities with Lost here.
No, most definitely. And this series, I mean, in general, Lost ends. I mean, dude, we can all talk about how shit the ending of Lost is because of how it's just not complete, right? You don't feel the kind of sense of complete that we kind of talked about earlier in the deep dive. But man, season finales, Lost had them. There's a reason why people kept coming back to this show, and it's because of episodes like this and how they sent Charlie off, like you said, in an emotional fashion. That's that's putting it lightly. I think the way Charlie died in that whole sacrificing scene, it's gripping. It's really good TV. J.J. Abrams was nailing it for a long time, but obviously good things must come to an end. And so did the good episodes of Lost, which JJ has actually come out and said before that they had 4 seasons written and they came back and said, yeah, we want 7. And so they were like, oh, fuck, how do we spread this out? It ended up making what we ended up seeing today.
That's usually how it goes.
Oh, yeah. No, most of the time that is. But one of the most beloved ones is making it up to number 3. Bronwyn, why don't you tell the people who's number 3 on the list?
At number 3, we have Parks and Recreation, One Last Ride. And this actually is the series finale as well. And a case could be made that the best NBC workplace comedy of the decade wasn't The Office, but was in fact Parks and Recreation instead, which I agree with. It had more of a consistent high quality throughout its run. And right up to that series finale, One Last Ride, this hour managed to hit everyone right in the feels. One Last Ride wrapped up the present day storylines of each character, but whenever Leslie physically interacted with one of them, it flashed forward to how their future went. Each of these scenes was touching and perfect for the characters audiences had come to love over the years. So it really did a good job of just leaving you feeling just overjoyed and happy. I was very tearing up at this series finale.
Yeah, I think Parks and Rec really nailed it. It was a good season, series, everything kind of finale in a way. What about you, Kev?
Yeah. No, I agree. And again, another show that didn't overstay its welcome, so to speak. And I always like these. I like these episodes when they're done well, where it doesn't wrap up with an end in the present time, but it jumps forward a little bit into the future to kind of show you where everyone's at. I think that's always a good way to like kind of give you some sort of resolution.
I like a look into the future. And I think some people don't like that. And I think some shows shy away from it because they feel like they can't do like reboots or like whatever. But I like that because it's definitely like a fun way to kind of, Silicon Valley did that in a way too. Where it kind of showed where folks were in the future. And you're just like, okay, cool. Well, you get to see that Richard really did just completely fuck up his whole life.
Oh my gosh, talk about bad series finale.
Yeah, I know. I wish I would have thought about that one earlier. Silicon Valley is definitely one of them.
Worst list.
We wanted to end on a positive note.
Yeah.
But we were, while, a lot of people try to make the argument that the best NBC workplace comedy was Parks and Rec, I think the internet would say otherwise. And it's probably the GOAT, which is The Office, which is number 2 on our countdown, The Office episode finale. The first of a few series finales that you'll find on this, list goes to this list is essentially made up of a lot of great shows, but none other than The Office is definitely right here on the top. The show ran for 201 episodes spanning 9 seasons on NBC. It went through plenty of changes as well as highs and lows. Let's not even talk about when Will Ferrell was the boss. And when it ended, it was beautiful. Finale saw the characters react to the ending of the documentary that was being filmed the entire time. The 2-part episode wrapped things up perfectly. From Erin finding her birth mother to Angela marrying Dwight to the perfect return of Michael Scott with his classic "That's What She Said." It gave viewers everything that they wanted. Not many shows within history can really stick the landing, but I personally feel like The Office did it. What do you guys think about the season or the series finale of The Office and bringing back Michael Scott in those emotional moments?
I think it doesn't quite make up for the whole series, though. The whole season. It's like, the ending, like the last couple episodes were good, but like that whole last season was just so terrible that I don't know. I don't think it hits as high on my list.
It was nice to come back to because I was in love with The Office, and then that final season happened, and I just couldn't do it. And the funny thing is, like, that was at a time where I didn't know I could hate things that I loved, and I think I wasn't sure what's going on there. Right, I was like, man, why don't I want to watch the show? And then, as I got older, I was like, oh, I just really didn't like that shit. And but I eventually I came down. I was like, all right, let me just close this book forever. And then I came back, and I thought it was nice. I'll say that. But yeah, it was nice.
I give it extra points for bringing back Steve Carell. I think that season shit the bed. They knew it was time to take old Yeller behind the barn. They took it behind the barn, and they said, yo, but before you go, here's a dog treat. And then threw Steve Carell at us.
That's true.
And then pulled that trigger.
And that's usually hard to do, to bring back the main character.
Yes, especially after they've moved on and became these huge stars like Carell had, and it's just one of those where like the reason why it definitely made it top of the list, at least from my perspective, was just that it's one of the few season finales of a show that have definitely made me tear up. I definitely felt like, oh my God, like, this is it's because those 2-part episodes is a good story. And it's like they had written that before they had wrote the whole season. And then I don't know, but like, I definitely feel like it ended strong even after, it was a pretty bad season. Right. But speaking of bad, you guys are probably going to hate number 1, but maybe not hate it. But definitely, I've seen a lot of chatter in the chat. There's been a lot of votes for The Fresh Prince. I even saw some people talking about Buffy, which had a great ending. Buffy really did.
Yeah.
But I don't think any series or thing had a better finale than number 1 on our list. And Kev, you're going to tell us who number 1 is and tell the people why it's number 1.
Yeah, and this is why, Jake, because it had not only did it have a great season finale, it had a great series finale. That doesn't happen too often. Yes. That's why it's number 1, and there can only be one. Breaking Bad Face Off. The series finale of Breaking Bad had a strong case for the list, but season 4's Face Off gets the slight nod. The episode was everything that made this series such a force in the world of television. For one, it wrapped up the Gustavo Fring arc with a bang, as half of his face was literally blown off in his death, hence the episode title. But it also set things in motion for the final season. The revelation that Walter poisoned young Brock to get Jesse on his side was a new low for the character. It culminated in him breaking bad and showed that he'd do anything to keep his power. This is simply one of the finest hours of television in history.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, the reason it definitely makes number one for me, and I felt, I mean, shit, and I made the list, so sorry, but but this episode alone, like you said, not only set us up for, you know, the next season, but it kind of like closed out everything from the show so far and kind of left you thinking like, holy shit, what is this last season going to be? Right. Yeah. And Breaking Bad's just one of those shows I highly recommend going back and watching if you haven't. It's not one of those that, you know, when people's like, oh, don't believe the hype. Believe the hype of Breaking Bad. It's a great show, and it's one of AMC's finest shows, and it really put AMC on the map for a little while there. And so, you know, it's just one of those where like this is a great season finale for what was essentially a great series all around. You know, Gustavo was probably one of the best TV villains in a long time, and then for him to die, and it showed that Walter White was this kind of devious murderer. More so than we knew, right? With the killing of a child to get Jesse on his side. It was a huge revelation. And it really kind of put the nail in the coffin for Walter White as far as like fans were concerned when it came to maybe his redemption song being in this next season. It was almost like, hey, you think this guy's going to end up being a good guy? This is called Breaking Bad, not Breaking Good. And so, you know, they went really hard and showed that he literally killed this child just to get his way, and that nothing was going to stand in his way. And I think that's why it made number one for me. You know, I know that there's probably some beef with that, but Ron, have you ever got a chance to watch Breaking Bad?
Yes, and also, I was almost at this series finale premiere. I have the biggest FOMO ever. They did this whole series finale event at the Hollywood Forever Cemetery, and they like played side by side the very first episode, the very last episode. My mom and my brother went. They invited me, but this was when I was moving to Alabama to go to college, and I was just like, should have waited a week to go to class, is what I've always kind of thought. To like actually be there with the whole cast experiencing this would have been fucking incredible.
That
would have been dope.
But
there's nothing like coming onto a show late and missing like all the hype that was going around with it during the time where like you try to come up to your friends like, dude, this show's so amazing. We're like, yeah, dude, I've already been there. I'm mostly checked out now. You know?
No, like if I beg people to watch shows that I enjoy, because like I'll talk about it no matter what. Like if you're just now starting something, but what really gets me upset is when it's happening and people aren't watching. I think
sometimes I'll go back and watch it with them just to experience it all over again.
Oh, exactly. But I think what makes me more upset is when it's a cultural phenomenon and people just refuse to jump on it. You know, like how Game of Thrones was for a long time. People are just like, oh, I'm proud to say I've never seen an episode of Game of Thrones. And they won in the long run. But at the time, they were just not a part of something that was such a huge cultural.
Right.
You know, like it just always blew my mind. It's like I get it. It's like the people who are just like, oh, is there a sports game on today? And it's just like, dude, it's the fucking Super Bowl. Like, grow up. Like,
I know.
Grow up. Like, we all like the Super Bowl, and if you don't like the Super Bowl, it's not for you. It doesn't matter.
Then don't like the Super Bowl, but you don't have to be pretentious about it.
You got to be pretentious about it. And so, but Breaking Bad definitely, like chats popping off about Better Call Saul, was a great spinoff. I think that's another reason why Buffy needs to make honorable mention. Angel, phenomenal spinoff, and that show really completed itself as well. But I definitely agree with it. You know, Avatar: The Last Airbender. That was, someone else in chat said that one. That one did have some good endings, some good series finales, and good season finales too. Avatar really does wrap things up with a bow, so that's facts right there. You gotta definitely agree with them on that one. And I get that Good Place, that didn't have it. Yeah, we didn't wrap it up here. I don't. While it ended well, I could have had more Good Place. That's why, I think it kind of doesn't make it for me. Is that I think it ended too soon. I think they pulled the plug way too soon. That thing had some life in it. So anyway,
that's fair.
That's my thoughts, and I'm sticking to it. Any other honorable mention from you guys?
Honorable mention, Geeklife season 1 series finale.
There you go.
There you go. We really nailed it. That's the one. That's the one. Well, that about wraps it up for this episode of Geek Life. Thank you for, I hope you enjoyed it. I felt like we had a lot of fun. I had fun. Thanks for coming, neighbors. If you want more Geek Life in your life, you can always follow us on Twitch, Twitter, YouTube, all of the stuffs. We have it all in the description.
Instagram.
There's YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. If you just want to hear my voice in your ear while you work, you can download our podcast on Spotify, and I'll talk real slow and sultry.
It's really great.
But where can they find you guys at? Bronwyn, where can they find you at if they want more Braun?
You can find me at Space Nymph on Instagram and on Twitch. Come see me.
Roll Tide. And Kev, where can they find you at?
Yeah, Kevin Todd Jr. and Totally Awesome. And some quick shout outs. We had some new subs, I think. Shout out to Fad Sachs for subs 5 minutes in advance. Awesome. Thank you so much, man. Co-host and Geek Lifer here. And also shout out to everyone in Nerd Herd, man. We made it, guys. Season 1's a wrap. But we'll be back. We'll be back and we'll be around.
And we're definitely going to still be producing some content in the meantime. So stay up to date in the Nerd Herd. Yeah. It's not a long break. We're just going to be off air for about 3 weeks while we kind of catch up on some content, cut some old content, get the TikTok really going too. That's a big one that I really want us to kind of beef up a little bit. So we're going to be producing a lot of content and probably some of our other areas, just not Twitch every Sunday. We'll be back right after 3 weeks. And like Dodd said in the chat, free game Fridays. I think we're still going to be doing some sus Saturdays with Sax. So definitely please join.
The show coming out soon too, some workout videos, some gamer workouts, dressing up in cosplay. Come see me.
That's gonna be a lot of fun. Super excited for those. And so special shout outs to everybody that's subbed, everybody that's followed. It looks like we got a new follower too. Wrong priority, which is nice.
The right priority today.
Yeah, you got the right priority. Thank you for subbing, and thanks Caperdoodle for this year. And obviously all the subs. And thanks to our moderators, Worst Bane, which is the Dot. He's been watching us all night, and Littlest Nelly. I know you've also been popping off in the chat, so thank you for that. Shout out to our producer, Cape. Honestly, this first season couldn't have done it without you, bud. Everything that you do behind the scenes is phenomenal. You make all of this look like we're professional, and yet we're not. And so, thanks for making us look better than we are. You do a great job, Cape. And then obviously Dot on the design side, hosting so much this season. Thanks for that. Thanks, Sag. Yeah, for stepping up, hosting some weeks, and then, or not hosting some weeks, but being on the show for that 1 week, and hopefully in future ones. And then hosting Saturdays with Sax, man. That's a phenomenal thing that I'm glad that we really got going on the show. And so thank you, Sax. Thanks, Sag. You've been, tuning in every week. It's great to see some of these guys. Pistachio, I know, is a big one too. Lucifer, I know we had him a little bit earlier. He was one. Incubus Games, I know you're a little bit newer, but welcome to the show. We'll be right back. We're going to have all kinds of cool shit. It's going to be great. We're excited. So thank you, guys. We will not be back next week, but we will be back very shortly. I believe, what is this? Hold on. Let's see. Let's do it. The 28th.
Yeah.
That's what? March 21st? I believe we'll be back roughly March 21st, which is essentially a year since we started this thing. So think about that. We'll honestly be back right around the year anniversary. So stay tuned. Stay up to date in the Discord, or follow us on all of our socials. Until then, stay nerdy, guys. Peace.
Peace.
Peace.